Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness. We're live on the I Love CVille Network in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world, presented by the Yes Team Realtors, trusted advisors in the game. Judah Wickhauer, the director, Keith Smith, the executive producer, star of the show. Keith, every media outlet in town on the show right now watching.
Why?
Well, we know why. Chip, the new city manager. Your words, you're uniquely qualified to offer perspective on this hire. I'd like to cut what you're about to say now into a sizzle reel and play it on the show at 12:30. We have Michael Payne on the show.
Good
So we'll play your sizzle reel right after the interview with Payne. All right, I'm getting out of your way. Tell us why you think Chip Boyles is an excellent city manager for Charlottesville, Virginia, at a time of turmoil right now.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm uniquely qualified to do this. I'm the second actually either the longest or the second longest member commissioner of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. I'm in my 10th year and just got reappointed for 3 more years. But I chaired actually the selection process to hire Chip, and over the last probably much to his disliking, and we tease each other very much, so I consider Chip a very close friend. But I probably spent between 10 to 20 hours a month with him for the last at least 4 years as part of the chairman of the Regional Housing Partnership, and been the treasurer for the last 3 years over at the commission. And I want to just put it in a little bit historical perspective, right? And not getting too much into the details. And this is why I know this is the right hire. I was actually texting with Heather Hill earlier this morning about this. When Chip took over the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, it was actually in a darker place than the city is right now.
Wow, that says a lot.
So we had some serious, let's call staff issues with the executive director. I can't go into the particular details, but it was unpleasant. We were having issues with money. We were awfully close to having to shut our doors, like 30 days close to shutting our doors. Almost all of our key employees left. We had 0 of program managers, is what they're called.
So this is like City Hall. Maybe worse.
And it's worse than that. And so the whole purpose of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission is we work with the regional governments. The regional governments wouldn't talk to us.
Wow.
So
that's the whole premise of the concept, and they wouldn't do it with you.
I'm telling you, it was in a bad place. And to a certain extent, in my opinion, you know, as far as apples to apples, volume is different, number of people, you know, those things are different. But in a high level, it was exactly the same. And I chaired the search committee to hire Chip. He came from Baton Rouge. I believe it was Baton Rouge. And we interviewed a ton of folks to go get through this thing. And what we did is we reorganized, which is what the city's going to do, I'm sure, because it has to. We reorganized our structure, gave Chip the tools and the support of the commissioners. Every single one. So they got 5 that they have to deal with.
City councilors.
We got 12.
12 on the commission.
Which are all elected officials except for 1 or 2 of us. And we needed to rally up around Chip, support him 110%. And now the city stole him from us. now, you know, we could not have been likely as opposite of that. We're super respected on every one of the jurisdictions. We have jurisdictions coming to us and saying, solve this problem for us. That's what we're built to do, right? We're financially, not to give too many details, it was public record actually. Financially, we have many months of undesignated operating cash on it. We've got great staff. Everybody's super happy to work there. And what I'm trying to get to, Michael, Lloyd, Heather,
Cena,
Mayor Walker, if they just support him and let him do his job, we will have a conversation a year from now and everything will be different. Maybe not 180, right? Maybe 90 degrees where we're not 180, 180, maybe 90 degrees, duh.
360 is the one that would take us back here.
It's only coffee, guys. it will maybe be 90 degrees where we are today.
But better.
To me, that's 1,000%.
So you love the hire. You love Chip Boyles as the hire.
It's freaking awesome. We had a meeting on this yesterday, and Jesse, who's going to get called in, was part of that. And my words were, this is a win-win for everybody.
There you go. Cut that into a sizzle reel that we can play after Michael Payne. That right there is firsthand experience, and we'll talk even more about this with the man on his Monday slot on the I Love CVille show. We'll play what you just said after the interview with Michael Payne.
I can't tell you how excited I am.
What Chip and this show and Chip and getting in his brain and his perspective, what are you thinking? What's on your mind? Because this guy, you know this guy.
I know this guy very well.
Yeah, you work alongside this guy.
We did. We solved and created a bunch of stuff together. And when I say we, the commission, Jesse coming on board was a huge part of it.
Jesse Rutherford, Nelson County Board of Supervisors coming up soon.
Absolutely. It was a huge part of that. But, I cannot tell you how great of a hire this is. And he did the right thing. He left us, meaning the commission.
In a good spot.
In a freaking awesome spot.
Right, he didn't leave you in a lurch.
The last time this happened, we were desperate. And, I was asked to restructure, and I rolled up my sleeves, and we got this done. But great hire, man. I'm all for it. A little different perspective. So three things Chip is going to do. No, he hasn't told me this, but I just know him well enough to know this is what he's going to do. The first thing he's going to do is do something called town and gown. He has the skill sets to do that. He has the background to that. I believe he did it in Clemson. Can't say it.
Clemson.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yankee accent, can't say that. The second thing that he's really good at and has built up is, let's face it, UVA and the city of Charlottesville is kind of the heart of our region. It bumps, right?
Yeah, it is the heart.
Chip has excellent relationships. I mean excellent relationships with every one of the 5 other jurisdictions in the region. So there's going to be a lot of crosstalk, a lot of conversation back and forth between this jurisdiction and Charlottesville, which is going to end up and migrate at the commission level, because that's the place for that to happen, where we basically have 2 elected officials from all 6 jurisdictions to do that. And the third thing is he just has this skill set, this ability to have a conversation with anybody, and eventually everybody comes to an understanding. So you can have people, I've seen him do it. He's done it with me. We've been on 2 sides of an issue or whatever it was, and he has the skill sets to get us to the middle, and we say, okay, that's the right decision, let's move on. This will happen, and not to put a lot of pressure on him, but...
I mean, he has a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
He's taking a job that's over 200K. And he's taking over for a city that's in turmoil. And the deputies are gone. We haven't even talked John Blair yet.
John Blair's gone, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John Blair to Stanton. Yeah. We both have tremendous respect for him.
We do. But in a sick way, that's actually to his advantage.
Oh, sure. Because it's rock bottom.
It's rock.
You can't go lower.
Well,
I mean, you can, but let's hope to God it doesn't happen.
So let's change our hat from, and Jesse, we'll get to you in a second, brother.
It's like a baseball team. You're a New York guy.
Well,
if someone's taking over the Mets, let's take the Jets.
What's the first thing you do? You fire everybody.
I mean, the Jets just hired a new coach yesterday. Mm-hmm. This new coach is going to come in, and expectations are already in the pot. Same with Chip.
So I was going to go more of the corporate structure.
Sure.
Right. It's the first thing they do is they clean house. Right. So he doesn't have to do that. The house is
empty.
The house is empty. Well, and the reason we're talking about this. He started exactly the same place at the commission, literally exactly the same place, with all these extra layer of problems that he's not facing at the moment.
How did the council get to him?
Yeah, that I won't go down.
Okay,
that's a conversation.
That's a Michael Payne for 12:30. I'll ask Michael that.
Well, frankly, that's a Chip question. I know Michael well enough to know he probably won't talk much about that. That's Chip's story to tell.
Okay,
but that's between Michael and Chip. It happened, let's put it that way.
Okay.
And it's a great thing, man. It's a great thing. I know all the jurisdictions around it. I'm sure Jesse, if we can we get him on, I know he's in support of it. And It's going to be good stuff, man.
I'm reaching out to Jesse Rutherford right now, Nelson County Board of Supervisors, Judah Wickhauer. He's on the line. Jesse, quick on the trigger. I love when this guy comes on the program.
Quick on the trigger. He's already on?
He's watching the show, and I think he's eager to talk about Chip.
Does he have a beer in his hand?
He does not have a beard, but he's got a hat on. He's looking sharp. Keith just asked if you had a beer in your hand. Jesse,
no, not quite. No,
it's morning, Keith.
As usual. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's never stopped you and me before.
That's true. That's true. All right, let me get to Jesse here. Jesse Rutherford, Nelson County Board of Supervisors. We love him on this program. I'm going to pass you over here to Keith. Before I do, we're out of your way. Chip Boyles, City Manager, Charlottesville. Anywhere you want to go on this topic, Jesse Rutherford.
Absolutely. So Chip Boyles is the best of the best. When we talk about Charlottesville situation, I see you, Keith. I can't imagine having a better leader than Chip to be the one doing it. He's a great diplomat, as I think Keith was trying to say earlier. He's a wonderful diplomat. I mean, he has to deal with the diversity of a region from Louisa, Greene, Madison, all the way down to Nelson County, and then throwing in the Charlottesville Albemarle perspective. So for us, for me to have seen that, it is just a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal diplomat. So, I'm excited. I will say this message to council and whatnot, guys. There's no reason Chip should ever be on the menu. That guy never deserves whatever item that they might treat him, because Chip is such a great guy. He's the best of the best, and I will say that in Nelson County, if they have issues with him, then Nelson County will put an embargo on the finest foods and beverages. So
let's cut. Jesse Rutherford, that was good. Let's cut that into a sizzle reel for the Monday show as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's before we talk about broadband, that's an interesting perspective, and I should have thought of the word diplomat. So nice, well done, Jesse.
Yeah.
Keeping me straight. Appreciate it, buddy.
No worries.
But when how long you been on the commission?
I think going on 3 years, coming up on 4.
So when you first came on, did you come on to the commission thinking, what was your thoughts about the commission? And
explain the commission.
I'm going to be dead honest. My first impression was Chip Boyles. I mean, I walk in, first person I met was Chip. I didn't meet any of the commissioners, didn't meet any of those people. Chip was was an attracting facet. And one thing that he has going for him is that he's a dreamer.
Oh, yeah.
In so many different ways. He's the kind of guy that you sit there and you're like, wow, you mean my dream isn't that crazy? So, how cool is that to have a guy who has the ability, but not just be that, but to be a finisher. It's easy to dream. It's hard to be a finisher. And Chip is the guy who can, if he can't do it, he can connect the right people to get to the end result. So, and I think that's something that is unique for him. He's not just a leader, so to speak. If there is something that is not his expertise, he has the ability to connect the dots at least and say, you know what, I might not be able to, but I know this guy can.
So in preparation for today's show, I was actually reached out to him. But before we go down that road, we're geeking out a little bit here about the commission, but there's lots of people that are watching that. I've kind of talked about it a little bit, maybe in layman's terms, in your vernacular, so I tend to geek out a little bit. Explain the commission. Explain what it's about, what it does.
Yeah, so the commission it's a regional effort. It's about, one thing local governments need to do is to have the ability to talk about what's happening on a regional basis. One thing that is important is the economic health of the region. And of course, in that region has Charlottesville Albemarle, and independence on that is Charlottesville Albemarle is very dependent on the workforce supplied by other counties. So we have the ability to talk about the needs of the region, whether that's affordable housing, whether that's broadband, whether that's, talking about certain transportation developments, items like that. It also is a great time for people to throw ideas off of each other. It's also, kind of like a minds meeting, meeting of the minds. You kind of get there and get a good perspective. But overall, the goal is for, the betterment of the region, not just your own locality, but on a regional basis. So, and there's always dialogue that, everybody learns and grows on. Every time I go there, I learn something, I go there, I might tell Charlottesville, man, I don't know if that's how it works down in Nelson, but maybe for you, and that's how critical that is to hear. So,
Well, so
let's welcome Neil Williamson to the show.
Hey, Neil. Neil is an expert at this stuff, without a doubt. But it started in 1972, Right. So this has been around
Right.
for quite a few years. And what
Oh, yeah.
Jesse's referring to, Jesse, when you first came on, were we doing a roundtable, or did we just start it?
Yeah.
So
We were doing, I think you were just starting.
we just
that.
started. So I think before you were seated, I made a motion that we should do that. And what Jesse's referring to is that at the end of the meeting, there's a roundtable, and this is what this body really does well as far as a group goes. So Jesse and his counterpart at Nelson County are start talking to me and my counterpart at Fluvanna County, and we start conversation back and forth. And the Greene County counterpart, the Greene County elected officials will jump in. Broadband, which we're about ready to talk to, is always a topic on the subject. And,
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
and the conversation
Yeah.
is we'll lead into it. The conversation from Greene's perspective is frankly looking at Jesse going, "How the hell did you do that?" Right? Tell us how you
Right.
did it.
Right.
So, Jesse,
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Tell us how you did it.
How do we do it? How do we get everybody broadband? Yeah.
I'll just drink coffee now and shut up.
There you go. That's fair. I'm jealous. But Nelson County has that unique situation where we've been progressive in terms of internet access. It's been an item of topic for a very long time, since 2008. So we started out when Obama got elected. A big effort for him was broadband access. So what did we do? We went out. We got access to a whole bunch of internet, let me tell you, or dollars at least. I think it was around several million, so 3 to 5, something of that nature. And this was the first round. So we focused on fiber internet, and that's always been a Nelson County thing, and making sure that we have access to that high-speed internet. Carried on in, the board kept being progressive, so we kept building towers. We kept trying to experiment across an ISP, internet service providers, and which ones could work better where. Carry that on, and we're building and building and building, and we get up to 800. I think it's about 600 and some clients hooked up to the county's fiber network, and that's not counting however many hundreds connected to our tower systems. It still wasn't doing what we wanted it to. So keep in mind, when you have local governments just now starting, man, we already had like 10 years of trial and error, and trying to figure out topography is tough. Building a tower and only 100 people getting internet access yes, fiber internet makes sense on this road because 100% of the people are probably going to hook up to it. And, we keep going into that. Now, one thing that we were, as Nelson County, are very, we pride ourselves in is being financially responsible. So we save up a lot of money. As I've talked on the show before, we have a sizable war chest, and we use that as if, we are in times that we need to use it in wartime. So here we are in the midst of COVID, and all you kept hearing was people talking about internet access. I mean, and that's totally fair. The voice was obviously loud before COVID, and it just kept getting amplified as we went into it. So, we took it seriously. We looked at the CARES Act money. I know a lot of the cities did a lot of vouchers and whatnot. For us, we said internet. And we took, I think it was close to, if not over half of our CARES Act money that we received, like $1.2 million. And we threw it at Central Virginia Electric Cooperative, and we said, please get us more internet. And then after that, then the governor came out with some more CARES Act funding. And instead of focusing on anything else, we said, we're going to take whatever money we can and throw it at internet. So on top of that, we threw another $300,000 at it. And then as we kept going, we cut a deal with the co-op, and we do a transaction where we gave them our fiber network so that it could help amplify their ability to grow and not have to build over top of existing infrastructure. So then, all right, there's another $3 to $5 million worth of infrastructure build out. So then on top of that, we get down to it. We're in negotiations, and this is a big deal. My number one goal for my district was internet access. Everything else we can figure out after that. If we don't have access to the new Silk Road, we will not have the ability to conduct our businesses, conduct anything of our lives, and exist in our county. So we get to the back end of that, and universal internet access becomes a topic. So I had a great conversation with some of the leadership of Central Virginia and Firefly. And we said, you know what, guys, let's take this seriously. Let's do something no other county has ever done. And that is, we want to guarantee every person in Nelson County has access to high-speed internet. Not just a little high speed. We're talking a gigabyte speed of internet. I mean, Jerry, you're probably not even running that in your store. I mean, in your
we're
your
running a
office there.
gig. We're running a gig, but that's a good point, Jesse.
Are you running a gig?
We're running a gig.
All right,
What do you think?
Well, I'm out here in Bodunk, Nelson County, in the middle of nowhere, and I have a gig.
That's
too,
awesome.
you
That's
know?
awesome.
So it is, and so that was the thing is we didn't want to just get a patch.
Right.
You don't want just something where all of a sudden it's going to rain and you lose access, or you get snow and you lose access. No, we wanted a water hose, and we said we want fiber internet to every household and every business in Nelson County. And after lots of negotiation behind closed doors and another $1.25 million, which is not the last $1.25 million, was not taxpayer money. That was broadband authority money, which was monies collected by ISPs, other build-out operations. So didn't even have to touch tax revenue for that. Now, after we did that, we secured the deal. Now it's all about it's great. It's a great issue to have. People wondering when they're going to get internet, and people are getting it all the time. Firefly access everywhere in areas that had no options. And the best issue I have now is how quick can we get it to people? We need to get it quicker, but the how has been answered. It's the when. And so, we're all our goal is now is to expedite and make sure that people are getting this internet as quick as possible.
So I got to give a shout out to my little old county, Flavanna, too, because we're part of this process in this Firefly. I don't think we're quite quite at the same level as you for every resident having it, but we're on a track. But we're working together collectively to go ahead and do that.
You guys have a high percentage of cooperative members. So.
Yeah, we huge, right? I mean, for the most part, I would say I can't quote the exact numbers, and Neil or somebody else can do that, but I'll say probably about 3/4 of the county is in co-op.
Wow.
On co-op stuff.
And the other 25%?
Dominion.
Okay.
Dominion on that stuff. So what I'm hearing is a progressive board, a progressive government 10 years ago, right?
This is over 10. This is like 12 years ago.
12 years ago, made a decision that this was important and stuck with it.
Yep.
And the result is 2023, everybody's going to get giga speed, right?
Yep. 2024, but yeah.
2024.
Yeah. I mean,
come on, you can do it faster.
If not sooner. Absolutely. And all we're going to be focusing on is expediting and chasing more grant money wherever we can for our hometown. So
good for you.
Yeah, and I tell you and I know we talked earlier in March about what this has meant and how this has changed, our community, and it really is starting to change our community in ways I've never really thought of. Obviously we talk about the typical but very important, access to education, access to your office while you're at home. Now we're starting to see people's lives be full time doing that. Well, some real estate real quick. You can look at Stony Creek, and in Stony Creek, you're starting to see these software developers just say, "Wow, there's a house for only $275, $325K." Nice subdivision with a golf course.
I can go skiing.
Yeah, right.
I can go skiing. There's all the breweries, and he's like, "And I have fiber."
Yeah.
So you know what he did?
Bye.
Bought that house, moved down from up in Nova, and there he is. So I have another example. I have a 1-bedroom, 1-bath passive solar home that I rent out, and here's the best part about this: this guy works as a superintendent for the Amazon build out up in, as I guess that's Chantilly or wherever it is up there in Northern Virginia.
No, it's not Chantilly. It's
where is it?
Oh, come on, Crystal City.
Crystal City. Sorry, it's close, but not. But anyways,
not even
he's
close,
living in
but that's
Nelson.
okay, Jesse.
Now my geography usually stops at the northern border of Nelson County. Okay.
No, it stops because you can't make it past the brewery. Let's be honest.
That's true. That's true. So. And he's living in Nelson County, doing his operations, going up there once, twice a week just to do his field verifications, and then just staying in Nelson County full time doing design work in Shipman, in what you would consider a lesser income side of the county.
Sure.
And it's starting to develop and you're getting entirely different groups. So I can tell you this: I recently had 3 clients who were from Newport News, Chesapeake area. They're like, we've got to get out. And again, all they do is just sell stuff online, whether it's working through eBay and whatnot. That's all they do. So they're starting to come here, and I don't know what next year looks like after this, but it's going to be interesting to see these demographic shifts coming from suburban, and I wouldn't say urban areas quite yet, but more of the suburban of the urban areas moving
So we
to
were
these
part,
parts of the county.
I was part of a presentation yesterday that Dr. Yoon did from the National Association, real chief economist, and
Right.
this trend is that COVID is accelerated it, but this trend's
yeah.
been going on for years, and he's a super smart guy, and this is not going back.
Across the street from us, in the last 60 days in our neighborhood, 3 people have moved in and bought houses, all 3 from Northern Virginia.
There you go.
Literally
Yeah.
across the street from
So
us.
I did some quick numbers. Your county's up around 43% year over year in real estate sales transactions. The
Yeah.
volume is
Yeah,
not
he's-
huge, but the percentage, and that number is just going to go up. And offline, you know this. There's some clients of mine that are looking at Nelson County because it's getting it right.
Nelson County's hot, baby.
It got it right. It got
Yeah.
it right. So
Yeah.
so we're gonna call in some pretty awesome rock stars coming in after you, but.
Not saying you're not an awesome rock star, Jesse Rutherford.
Oh, man.
Because you are Jesse Rutherford.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
You know I'm
whatever.
a huge fan of Jesse
Don't make
Rutherford.
Whatever. His head is this big already. Now it just got bigger.
He's
Yeah,
good at what
I know,
he's
that
good at what he
was-
does.
He's
the
really
COVID-19,
good.
you know?
He's really
Yeah.
good at what he
He's
does.
likable.
He knows I love him.
Yeah, he's likable.
So you want me to do it in public? I love you. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it.
Thank
But
you,
what I was trying to get to is, so how can you export this thought of yours, this process of
Yeah.
yours, to other counties and say, guys, you need to do this. This is the path to do this. So let's make it 6 bullet points,
Yeah.
3 bullet points.
like the Cliff Notes.
How does
Oh
it? How
man,
do they
I can
do
make
this?
it down to just a couple.
There you go. Give it 2.
Nelson County had a situation that was almost unique and perfect. The moon and stars aligned just right to where we all of a sudden had an aggressive cooperative that was ready to complement our interest. That is a scenario that is going to be hard to come by. The reality is the build out in Nelson County is probably going to be close to over $30 million. That level of debt service is not something the local government can really take on. Bullet point number 1, the state needs to step up. I think that a reality is the state is just trying to pacify local governments by saying $100,000 here, $100,000. When in reality, this is $1 billion conversation for our region. And I say billion with a B, because if it cost us that much just for 14,000 people, how much do you think it's going to cost for Buckingham, where the square miles is so much larger? Or you look at a city where you might not, where you might have to do a little bit more, where you have the economies of scale. So I don't know. I think one, it needs to be made a state issue. The state SEC, it's either SEC or SCC, one or the other. I think it's SCC. Needs to start looking at electric utility companies and saying, you guys need to make a plan for providing internet access to your clients. And the reason why I say that is the cooperative, and Central Virginia Electric Cooperative is the best cooperative in Virginia. I'll go out on a limb and say Gary Wood is the best executive director in the sphere of all of that, and I absolutely props to them. And they're a part of the solution. And every other cooperative needs to look to that as inspiration and do the same thing. Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, they're the largest cooperative in this state. They need to start doing this. They have demographics that are suffering from Winchester all the way down to, I think, Matthews County or over there near the Eastern Shore. And a government that's willing to help as well and help expedite. You need to have your GIS people, 911 people helping create these pools where you can help create economies of scale earlier as opposed to, suffering through the massive build out.
So we're gonna
Sizzle reel that too.
So we're going to talk about this in depth with our next 2 guests, Ben and Ali.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, what you're talking about is it's already exists. It's the Rural Electrification Administration.
Yep.
It was done in the 30s. It created these co-ops, and these co-ops have these easements, and they go and do this.
Yep.
This is just a matter of everybody getting on the same page. And I'll tell you my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Internet should be considered electricity. It
It's
should
a
be
public utility. It's a public utility.
It's a
I've
public-
been saying that all year.
Treated like a public
It
utility.
needs to be
Listen,
treated like a public utility.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So I went. Now you guys know I go head to head with Dominion all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. I don't mind busting. corporate
AKA
America's
pipeline.
chops. Hey, buddy, we won one fight with them. If they want round 2, let me know. And we'll take them out again.
Never mess with a guy from Nelson County
I
who does an interview in front of tens of thousands of people with a toothpick in his mouth.
I love it. I love it, Jesse.
Never mess with a guy.
He's going after a monopoly corporation that has billions of dollars right now. I love it.
I grew up around
Hey.
enough mafia to know what one looks like.
Yeah, okay. That's the Nelson County version.
That's the Nelson County version of that. Yeah.
Well, hold on one second. I got one more thought. I went head to
Really?
head with another Dominion
Don't hurt
guy
yourself.
recently, who will go nameless. He's actually a nice guy, and I talked about exactly what we were discussing. I said, man, you guys, hey, I appreciate you supply electricity. There's nothing wrong with that. That's critical to our society. However, I mentioned to him this concept of making sure everybody's supplied internet access, and he looked at me and he said, well, that's an interesting business model, and and I just went back and I talked to another guy and I said, an AEP guy shows up and then another guys, and it's totally fine. This is just talking, and they said, it's going to be hard to get our business model wrapped around a utility like internet. And I said, oh, well, stop calling yourself a business, because you're not. I said, you are a legalized monopoly guaranteed 9%. I said, calling yourself a business implies that you have competition.
Right.
We gave you a special privilege, and we now have a new special service that we need. And that special service is not special. It's a must. Internet access we need to start having our electric utility companies start doubling down and seeing what they can do to help make this provide. And that's not to say this burden is just on them. The state needs to step up and help
So
them.
what we're talking about here, Jesse, is
Yeah.
PPE, either PPEs or PPAs, private-public partnerships, right? And that's how this works,
100%.
right? You've got to do that.
Also-
There's very specific at the state level. It's very clear how these things work on that end of it. But that's what it has to be. It has to be a partnership between the public, which is everything from federal to state to local, and then the private entities such as co-ops. Because the co-op is a private, even though it's a cooperative, it is a private entity.
It is. It's still a private entity. And Nelson County exemplifies that. And now the local entity was amplified to a degree. There was some assistance from the state and there was assistance from the feds, but it was just a perfect scenario. So
I promised these guys 10 minutes ago to call them in, Jesse. So
got it. Hey, I appreciate you guys.
you
Nice
and
to
I
see
you
y'all.
and I could do this for a couple of
Jesse, you're the man.
couple of hours, but these guys,
Absolutely.
other guys, got a schedule. Jesse, thank you,
No.
thank you. Take your knowledge and spread it around the region.
I can't wait to have a beer with you, and we'll do this next time in person. You have a good one.
What's that?
You have a good one, Jesse.
Oh, yes, you too. See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care. We'll reach out to these guys here in a matter of moments. Public utility, it's like running water, electricity, and in 2020, internet is a public utility.
Yeah.
For kids,
And it gets worse than that. It's even paint a different picture than that. We're
What's that?
talking rural.
right. For
Right.
kids to have to go.
No. Let me get
Sure,
this train of thought out for
Yeah.
you. You don't have. You can drill a well and you can have a septic. Just think about that.
Sure.
So it's really power and internet, because some of these rural things, they don't have water, they don't have sewer, because they have it on their site, they have it on their property, they have a well and their own septic. But this is such a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The utilities have the easements there, and Jesse put a spot on. We kind of let these guys be, or gals, these companies or these entities be monopolies, and they need to step up to the plate. Now they can't do it on their own.
Sure.
But that's what public-private partnerships are all about.
We have families in Central Virginia that don't have internet at home and are expecting to have their children learn their ABCs 1, 2, 3s from the house. So we have families literally driving to hotspots, Orange, Nelson, Louisa, and Green, because they don't have reliable internet. They're going to these hotspots, downloading the curriculum on their devices, and then learning from them at home because they don't have access to the internet.
Well, literally, that's what Ben and Ali are going to talk about. This is an article they did in Realtor magazines, just exactly that, the inequities of broadband.
We have them on the line. Gentlemen, Judah, we have them on the line. Fellas, let's see if we can get that camera turned on for you so we can see your faces if you could tap the screen. There we go. Thank you guys for coming on the program. First, we start open-ended before we get to the nitty-gritty. Both you guys are looking super sharp. I love the attire right here.
Aren't these
Oh my
sharp?
gosh.
Thank you.
These guys are fashionistas right here.
What do
All
you
right.
think I put my suit on?
I know. I feel underdressed right now.
I put my
All
suit on
right.
because I knew we were going to have a bit of a
I
competition.
see that. I see that. Fellas, introduce yourself to everybody that's watching, and then we'll talk shop. Show is yours.
Good morning. I'm Ben Reeves. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Alliance in the McKone Group in Charlottesville. Before that, I was a first sergeant with the Albemarle County Police Department for about 13 and a half years.
Awesome.
And I'm Christopher Alley. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Media Studies at the University of Virginia. And my research focuses on broadband deployment, broadband policy, and rural broadband in particular.
Ben, sharp-dressed guy next to you.
Yeah,
I like it.
Tell me about it.
I like it. Let me see. What's your pocket square? Let me see what you got there. Brown? I like it. I like it.
Burgundy.
Burgundy. So forget about broadband. Where do you go shopping?
Ted Baker.
There you
Really?
go. Nice.
Well
Good
done.
face right there.
Well done. We need to go on a little bit of a shopping trip because my wife refuses to go with me, and I need somebody to go with. So let's go.
Anytime.
All right.
Anytime.
All right. We'll just use Ben's credit card, and everything will be okay.
Yeah, done.
So, guys, apologize for being late. It's Jesse and us just kind of went off on the deep end. But, what we want to do is we kind of want to get out of the way. You guys wrote this excellent article, actually 2 articles we want to talk about. One that you guys did jointly about broadband inequities, and I'd like you guys just to jump in and talk about that. And Chris, you wrote some awesome thing that I've got in front of me with the New York Times, and it kind of focused, what caught my attention is the Rural Electrification Administration, and I'm a bit of a fan of PPEs, or PPPs, or whatever you want to call them. So me saying that, I'm going to get the hell out of the way and let you guys talk about your awesome article, and then we'll geek out on PPEs or PPAs.
Yeah. So what Ben and I kind of realized is when we could combine our two expertise here, real estate and broadband policy, that we needed to have a larger conversation about the role of broadband to households, right? I mean, particularly in a time of COVID. Without broadband, and not just internet access, right? We're not just talking about some form of access. We're talking about high-speed, high-performance internet so that we can have our Zoom conversations, so that we can work from home, so that we can learn from home, so that we can communicate from home in the time of a pandemic. And that's a question that a lot of homeowners don't seem to ask a lot is, does this house have internet? And maybe sometimes a lot of realtors, real estate agents don't know to figure that out. So Ben and I thought, well, let's put our brains together and see if we can get the word out.
Yeah, it's. I know you all hit it on the head a little bit earlier. We were watching the show before we joined in, it has absolutely been an increasing conversation with clients. And what becomes more and more difficult is when a client really wants to be in a specific school district,
Right.
and that school district is drastically lacking in broadband and high-speed internet. It becomes near impossible to get them into a house. And on the other side, I have clients that are trying to sell houses, and regardless of the listing price, we cannot sell it because there's no high-speed internet.
Quentin Beckham is watching here, and fellas, Quentin Beckham has props for you, multiple props. He says he can't wait to see you guys. He's watching you now. Quentin Beckham also says, I get to dress down because they dress up enough that we average out. Quentin Beckham has that to say to
I
the
don't
folks.
know. That jacket he got.
Oh, he looks sharp.
From
I gave
Alton
him props
Lane
on that.
was-
Yeah, I gave props. You were talking about this, and I want to throw this to Ben and you.
Sure.
It should be a field on the MLS
Yeah.
when someone lists a home. Ben, jump in. The internet connection, the stability of it, just like bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet, and acreage. Your thoughts, Ben and Keith?
It is. That is a field there. It took some doing to get it and to have some options with it. What I find is that the vast majority of realtors
Don't fill it in.
either not list it or they list it incorrectly.
Right.
So I think
It's rarely filled in when I'm looking at the MLS.
Yeah. So, and that's something that I'd like to think we're going to tackle at the car level. Not to speak for Quentin or the executive team, but it has to be. In my opinion, it should be a required field.
Absolutely.
Right. It's not a required field. They have the ability to do that. But we talked about Chip Boyles is going to get ready to say, I had a conversation with him yesterday about broadband and, in my opinion, I think the first thing some organization, either CAR or Thomas Jefferson Planning District, we have to do a survey, right? Because the problem I have, Ben,
What kind of survey?
about what's available. In other words, I just did a deal, right? He's smiling, right? Because they know there's nothing available. I just did a deal over by the airport, just call it that way. And my client, like you said, I need to know what the internet speed is. I called. This was a DSL provider. We don't have service there. I said, well, let's go see it anyway. And I walk in the house, and there's Wi-Fi all over the place. And I went, well, hold it. So the companies themselves don't even know where it is and what the speed is.
Right, and then you have some realtors that have not had the opportunity or taken the time to educate themselves on the differences, and so just like you were talking about earlier with what Firefly is doing in Nelson County, that is not the same as satellite. That is not the same as Comcast.
Sure.
There's a totally different speeds, different connections, different abilities. And just because you've got one of them does not mean that you can do homeschool, virtual learning, does not mean you can telecommute to work, does not mean you can access medical doctors online. So you need to know the difference between all of those.
So I'm going to ask Ben a question, and then Chris, I'm going to ask you for the solution. Okay? So Ben, kind of a couple-part question. Of all the buyers you're working with these days, is not their first question, what is the internet speed now? Not number of bedrooms, not number of where it's located. They start with the conversation like that?
It's the top three questions, yeah.
There you go.
It's usually it still revolves around questions that as realtors we may not be able to answer. Is what's the school district like, or is it
Sure.
a safe area? But the top three always, whether it's the first or the third, is internet. It is always there.
So that being said, Chris, how do we solve this problem? How can we make this happen? How can we recreate what was done in 1936 and make it happen? I like to think we are in a world right now that this is actually possible.
I think so too.
How do we do this? How do I, that sit on a regional body, right? My role is exactly what we're talking about, to help make suggestions to the elected officials. What am I supposed to tell them? You go.
I mean, that's a great question, and you're absolutely right that solving what we call the digital divide, having universal broadband is not cannot be left up to private entities alone.
Sure.
Because what we would say is broadband is a market failure, particularly in rural America, right? There is not enough people, and people are too vastly spread out in order for a company to get a return on investment. And so we need public investment. The Virginia Office of Broadband has some grants going. Those have recently been upped in the last year. The last report I saw said that we need to spend upwards of $80 billion to connect this country with high-speed, high-performance broadband. $80 billion. 3 years ago, that seemed like a lot of money. Now, when Congress is passing $1.4 trillion packages, $900 billion stimulus packages, $80 billion is a drop in the hat for what can do some amazing work, right? So the public-private partnerships that you talked about are going to be so very important. But we need public support. And so I think there's a moment, just like there was a moment in the 1930s with the Rural Electrification Administration, which then, by the way, in 1949 provided telephone to rural communities, right? There's a moment here that we can capitalize on, and there was a bill proposed in Congress in June that would do just that. $80 billion to deploy broadband, and then $20 billion to make sure broadband is affordable, because that's the other key, right? Yeah. Is that you can have a fiber optic connection that passes right by your house, but if you can't afford $150 a month or $100 a month, it's worthless to you. So we need to make sure that not only do the wires pass by, but that it's affordable for everybody as well. So those are the two sides of the same coin. And I'm really optimistic that we're going to see some meaningful broadband action happen at Congress this year. But the states have a huge role to play as well. And the Virginia Office of Broadband is is ramping up efforts to get more money out to counties and to communities.
The best thing that's ever happened to ubiquitous broadband and ubiquitous internet rollout, COVID.
Oh, without doubt.
I mean, it's the same thing COVID's doing with cannabis.
Sure.
The same thing COVID's doing with legalizing gambling. It's just magnifying this utility that's a must.
Well, those of us who are in the real estate space, maybe not so much the education space or the marketing and sales space, timing is everything, right? And this timing is about as perfect as if we can't. And Chris, you're 1,000% correct. If this doesn't happen now, it ain't going to happen, right? Everything is all lined up right. Everything is going right. But the one thing that you noted, which was 1,000% right, with this 1936 Act that's been added to, and I've read the amendments to it, the mechanism is there. They just got to say, do it, right? They got to provide the funding. You know, everybody needs to come together and do that. But when you were mentioning the failures thing, in essence, and Jesse didn't touch on this, but that's what actually happened in Nelson County, right? Mm-hmm. There was a private entity that came in, put the backbone in, didn't quite work. Right? You know, what was I listening to something? Usually the first people in or something.
Yeah, first to market, it gets slaughtered. You were listening to my show yesterday.
I was listening to your show yesterday.
First to market, like everybody else.
We spend way too much time together.
First to market,
either virtually
slaughtered.
or in person.
Friendster and MySpace. Second to market, Facebook often wins the battle. First to market in Nelson County didn't get the job done. Now second to market is going to utilize the foundation and infrastructure to roll it out. Yeah, you don't want to be first.
So I'm going to give you credit for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
You're in the middle of a virtual fight here. That's all. your police skills are going to have to kick in at this point, Ben.
Throw him a question.
So the second question for Ben is the big one. Are we going back? Ooh. Is this it? Are we ever? COVID is over. Shots, vaccine is done. Are we going back?
No, I don't think so. I think we will go back to socializing and being social creatures, but going back to office and less telecommuting, less working from home, no, I absolutely don't think so. I think this is the long haul, the new norm, regardless of COVID. Companies are seeing that even though they struggled initially by sending everybody home and trying to figure out how to do everything remotely, they're saving money by letting people work from home. The workers' comp is down, the office space cost is down, the overhead for electric and internet, it's all down because people have to have that at home for themselves. So if they can do the same amount of work from home and live a healthier life, happier life with family, let's do it. So it is here for the long haul. Some jurisdictions, Nelson County's doing a phenomenal job. We need others to get in line and make this a top priority today.
What do you think, Chris?
I mean, you know, I'm hankering to get back into the classroom.
Sure.
I miss my students. I'm kind of over the Zoom teaching. You know, I'm teaching virtually again this semester, but I am looking forward to getting back into the classroom. That being said, in my profession, I very rarely work from an office. I tend to work a lot from coffee shops, so I want to go back to my coffee shops. But I agree with Ben. I think we're seeing a bit of a paradigm shift when it comes to professions that would normally bring people into an office. You know, we're gonna see less of that, and we're gonna have to find a new equilibrium. But we're not going to get to that equilibrium unless everyone has equal access to broadband, right? It is an equity issue. Yeah. It has been called a civil rights issue. It's been called a human rights issue, right? Broadband, we know, in a time of COVID, is a matter of life and death. Those with broadband are more likely to social distance than those without broadband, right? There's an argument right there for why this
whole topic, Chris, about the inequities between races, right?
Absolutely. So the digital divide does tend to track onto existing divides. We're talking racial divides. Sure. We're talking about low income, and we're talking about most minority communities, but also tribal communities, something we don't often think about. Tribal communities are the least connected communities in this country. So it absolutely tracks onto the existing equity issues that we're facing in this country.
So my answer to the question I asked you, Ben, is yes, we're not going back, but I think it's going to be a hybrid. It's going to be a little bit of what Chris has, because we're all social creatures, and some of the business people that I'm talking to that hire substantial amount of people, they're just going to their business model just changed.
I mean,
right?
you know what I'm seeing? Because I got the executive offices.
Sure.
I got, so Chris and fellas that are watching and on the show with us, I have 27 executive offices. I have businesses, I'm not going to say their name,
Sure.
big,
Yeah.
100 plus,
Yeah.
that are coming to us for a place that team members can get together for 10 hours a week.
Yep.
And then go work from home.
That's exactly
They're
right.
getting out of class. We have a waiting list.
Yeah.
We don't have enough inventory for the waiting list because all they need is a place to powwow, and then they go work from home after they got the in-person connection done.
Well, so that's why I use the word hybrid.
I think it's hybrid is a good word.
Ben met me yesterday at our offices at the Studio X. That's exactly the mentality. I don't need a large...
And then you do this
Then we
after
do-
you connect in person.
We do this. We have
Absolutely.
conference rooms available to us. We don't need that large 100-person or 50-person or
Huge
whatever.
Class A office space.
Yeah.
Ben and Chris, thoughts? Jump in here.
I mean, I totally agree. We need this human connection. We need to be able to be in a room with other human beings. We need to have that spontaneity of brainstorming and discussion and challenge and debate. But maybe we don't need to do that 9 to 5 grind to the office anymore. And we've clearly demonstrated during the pandemic that this country can be productive without having to drive to the office or commute to the office. Right.
I think my partner in crime said this yesterday. Could you imagine if this happened 10 years ago?
Right.
No,
Right?
I have no idea what we would do. No.
What would we have done if COVID happened before? I mean, it happened, the Spanish flu, Spanish pandemic.
Sure.
It was in 1918.
1918.
Similar circumstances. Chris and Ben, anywhere you want to go. If COVID happened when there was no internet, what happens to the world?
I think you would have a much larger shutdown. I think more businesses would be struggling. Not that a lot are not, but I think we would be having a much larger social economic fallout. We wouldn't be able to continue functioning and adapting the way that we are. It was some curveballs, and it took some doing for everybody. Real estate, any corporations, schools, everything. They took a hit initially, but we've done it, and now we know how to do it, and we're making this the new norm. So I think it's a hybrid. I think you'll see less large corporations bring everybody back in. Schools will go back, but it's not to say that something major doesn't happen, and instead of being 2 weeks off for a school district because of a blizzard, that they don't say, okay, we're going to meet, twice this week instead of having 5 days off. You're going to need the internet all the time.
So it's funny you should say that, Ben. My youngest daughter is a teacher in Seattle, and they're doing remote and all that fun stuff. And so she called me in the middle of the day, and I went, oh, what's up? What's up, honey? She goes, got a digital snow day. The internet went out.
That happened in Albemarle County.
The internet went out, and I went, whoa.
Yep.
I learned a new term, a digital snow
Albemarle
day.
County had a digital snow day for a little bit of ice in the beginning of the morning, and they kept all the kids from home. The reality is there's still kids in the school district.
No. She lost her internet service at the house.
Right. Well, why Albemarle County did it is because there's students and families that don't have internet that
it.
have to get in their car and drive to hotspots.
Got it.
And they didn't want to
Yes.
put those kids and family in danger
Got it.
to getting in the car and going to the hotspot.
Got it. Yeah, I didn't
Right.
even think about that.
Yeah, and Albemarle has done a pretty good job. They're opening up more hotspots for the public to use in different areas and stuff, which is great, and that helps. But it's a Band-Aid. That is not a solution.
It's a Band-Aid.
So, guys, we're almost up at the end of our time. Kind of a real high-level question that it's more rhetorical than anything. How do we get this done? How can we get this done? How can we help get this done, right? We have this platform available to us. I'm fortunate enough, local government anyway, have the ability to talk to a majority of the local elected officials. How can we get it from this conversation to make it happen? What can we do to make that happen? I think that's you, Chris. That's you, buddy.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I've always said this is an all hands on deck approach.
Sure.
every stakeholder needs to be involved. That includes municipalities, that includes counties, that includes boards of supervisors, that includes elected officials, ISPs, cooperatives, right? We all need to we all need to be on board with this. And sometimes that takes a little bit of an education update, right? What we just talked about at the beginning of this conversation. I mean, not all broadband is created equal. We need to understand at least a surface level the kind of terminology that we're talking about. Why do we talk about things like 25.3? What exactly does that mean? What can I do with a DSL, a digital subscriber line connection, that I can or cannot do with a cable connection or a fiber connection? Why might a community want to bring in fiber versus fixed wireless? These are all really important questions. To Jesse had a really good point too, and you had asked about what other counties can do. I'll just plug this. On Tuesday morning next week, I'm sending out a survey to every single county in the state of Virginia, trying to figure out some best practices for broadband deployment. So I'm going to just plug that, if you don't mind, if counties could fill out.
I'm going to do better than that once you finish talking, Chris.
Okay. And so I think that's going to be really important. I think knowledge sharing best practices, but I think most importantly, getting on board with this idea. And I think we all are, but that this is not a luxury here. We're not talking about buying everybody a Lexus or, a Mercedes. We're talking about, making sure everyone has a connection to a lifeline, to this modern lifeline. So I think getting everyone on the same page, having an all-hands-on-deck approach is going to be really important, specifically in Virginia.
So I am going to take a little bit of chairperson's prerogative, and I'm going to invite you to something.
Okay.
So one of the things that I do, and one of the chairmanships that I do, is what's called the Regional Housing Partnership. And that Regional Housing Partnership consists of four pillars. I have every one of the elected officials there. I have all the nonprofits, the housing nonprofits there.
You're going to invite Chris to speak in front of him.
I'm going to invite Chris.
That's what you're saying.
That's what we're going to do at my next
Happy
executive committee meeting. The reason is everything you listed is at that table, right? And we have this conversation. But what's more importantly, I've got the second in charge at UVA sitting at that table. And so,
All right.
That's in some ways Chris's boss over there.
Just wanted to give you a heads up, go full professorship, right? Go.
Absolutely. Yep. For sure.
But I needed to get that out there, make sure you were comfortable with that. But they're at the table, and that took me 10 years to do that because we can't have this conversation locally, Chris, without UVA at the table.
Amen.
So
UVA is the top player in town when it comes to
I
this.
completely agree. Yeah.
So you've just been invited. So watch your email.
All right. Thank you very much.
Fellas, you
Thanks,
killed
guys.
it. You absolutely killed it. You're getting props. Randy Risher, Chris Alley, and Ben Reeves are the best. Laura's giving you props on the show here. You guys have a lot of fans in this town, evidently, here. You're popular dudes. Thank you both, fellas, for coming on the program. Thank you for the brain power. Thank you for making us smarter. Look forward to having you back on the network soon.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. This is a topic Quentin Becca, that you and I have covered, and I want to bring it up again.
Sure.
Broadband and the lack of rollout and how it can impact the wealth gap, social inequities, racial inequities.
Well, Chris tagged on that.
Yeah.
He's spot on. And
Yeah.
if you read his article, and we'll tag his articles in the feed, but that's literally what I believe, and I don't want to misquote the percentages, but it's a huge divide.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Huge divide. Because look, at the end of the day, Chris was spot on. We can run all this stuff across the front of somebody's property. Excuse me. If they don't have the $150 a month, right?
We have to start looking at internet not as a commodity, but we have to start looking at internet as
A utility.
breathing oxygen.
But you look
as
at-
drinking water from a faucet that's clean drinking water, that having warmth
So what
in
I-
our home.
So I was trying to get at, it's
It's a utility.
it's set up already. The system is, in 1936, they created the system to do this,
Yeah.
right? And, it's just, they just, look, everybody needs to stop fighting one another at the local, federal, and state level and step up to the plate and get this done.
Nikki Wooten Chambliss, Hi, Ben and Chris. You guys look fantastic. That's from Nikki Wooten Chambliss. Those two dudes should come back on the program.
Yeah,
Yona
yeah.
Smith, thank you, Ben and Chris. Fantastic topic. Tony O'Brien, invite Chris to the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. I think you just did.
No. That's two different things.
Okay.
I'm not the chairperson of that. I can't do
Tony
that.
O'Brien is saying that.
Yeah, Tony O'Brien's saying that.
Dan Pettit, seems like Ting is attempting to spread out in our area very quickly. I can offer some perspective on Ting. They're the presenting sponsor of the I Love CVille Network, which you see on screen. Ting's not going to roll out. Let me finish. Ting's not going to roll out anymore in this area. Ting is not going to roll out anymore in this area, guys.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
They're done.
Too expensive.
Too expensive and too difficult to work with the municipalities.
Yeah. So if that changed, that second half changes, that might change.
Maybe. Yeah.
So we do need to bring Tony on to talk about this.
Sure.
Because Tony's in a unique position to talk about this. He's an Havana County Board of Supervisor. He's also an ISP owner.
Great. We should bring Tony O'Brien. Tony O'Brien.
We will bring Tony on.
Yeah.
We've had Tony on before.
Yeah.
But not to talk about broadband.
I mean, you got two Albemarle County Board of Supervisors watching you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got the guest who's coming up at 12:30 watching.
Oh, Mike?
Jesse Rutherford, Nelson County Board of Supervisors, was on the show. You got a city councilor on the 12:30 show.
Yeah. Mike, good job on hiring Chip.
Yeah.
Good job, man.
Absolutely. Well, that's the show. This is Real Talk, presented by the Yes Team Realtors. He's Keith Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. Great show.
Yeah, we might just pick this up on Tuesday.
We should. We should. Your son-in-law is watching in Connecticut. I can't imagine Wall Street would have shut down for months at a time over this. I think people would have masked up and went to work for the most part if there was no internet. Harry Tyson.
I don't literally. I thought about that on the way in, based on your conversation yesterday on the show. Was what happens? What would happen if this happened in 1985? Right?
I mean, I would have masked up and gone into work. I would have had to, but I'm not sure everybody else would have.
Yeah. So we're.
I mean, when it comes down to it, and we got to get out of here because I got someone signing a lease in 11 minutes.
Got it. What time is it?
It's 11:19. When it comes down to it, we are so fortunate.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, one of our three businesses. Just think about it. One of our three businesses, this network.
Exactly.
The idea was birthed 8 months before COVID. And then COVID made everyone stay at home and even more addicted to their screens and their computers.
So
the timing is perfect.
Our chemistry worked on this because I literally was just going to say that.
Yeah.
We would not be doing what we're doing. This show would not be the success that this show is if the internet wasn't there. Can you imagine? What damage you and I could do if everybody had internet at their house?
I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I understand the responsibility we have with it because of it. All right,
Mr. Miller, you've got a lease to sign.
I do in 9 minutes, and I got to write it.
Why don't we end the show, Mr. Miller?
I got to write it. Judah Wickhauer, Keith Smith, Jerry Miller, Real Talk, I Love CVille Network. Thank you for joining us. Today's show was fantastic.
Yep. I'm going to listen to the show.
You put a great show together.
Thank you. I'm going to listen to the show at 12:30 and type in some perspectives.
Great.
So.
And we're going to play your sizzle reel as well.
Good.
All right, we're out of here.
Thank you, brother.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You could tell, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I struggle with it, but the best thing to do sometimes is just shut up and get out of the way.
They were amazing.
And that's what hopefully I did a little bit of that today. Not a lot, but I probably did a little bit.
You did a great job, my friend. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you in roughly 69 minutes with City Councilor Michael Payne on the program. Take care, guys. Dude.